Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honour and pleasure today for the next instalment of the Quantum Leap Business Show going around the world for 24 hours. To have my next guest is Penny Power, OBE. Penny, welcome to the show.
Lovely to be here, John. It's been many, many years.
It has been. I think back 2003 when I first ran into yourself and Thomas and Glenn and all the guys that you were trying to control back in about 2003 when Academy was in full blast.
Yeah, and I remember you were doing some interesting stuff back then. Thomas and I were just having a chat about you.
I hope it was all good.
It was all good.
Excellent. So Penny, share about Academy. It was probably a little bit before its time, a forerunner to perhaps LinkedIn without wanting to tar it with that brush. But what was the original inspiration for that whole show?
I suppose, and it's good to share this because it's a bit of a history lesson, but there's a lot of learning from history, isn't there? So 98, Thomas and I were sitting in a Pizza Express in Farnham with our three little kids that were under 7 at the time. Under 5, I should say, under 7, under 5. And if you take yourself back, there was MySpace, and in the UK there was Friends Reunited, and probably you were over in Australia at the time, I think, and there were probably things there, but there was nothing for business owners to be friends with one another. And I just suggested to Thomas, I'd quite like to set that up. At the time, I wasn't working in anything specific. I was doing a bit of interim stuff, but I was really looking after my 3 babies at the time. And that was it. I had no idea I was going to create this big tiger, and I never even managed to hold on to its tail. We started the first social network for business, and in a timeline, so that was 1998, 2002 LinkedIn came along, 2004 Facebook, and then 2006 Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Penny, you weren't just dabbling though, were you? At one point you had, I don't know, 650,000 people on this platform and quite a few thousand paid subscribers. So, getting right up there with, a Mark Zuckerberg type business before him. So how did you grow the whole thing to that sort of level?
Well, I have to give, it's word of mouth. So the members were amazing. I think critically, and I hope some of our conversation today will be about the power of community, because I think, it really grew from a point of community. And I think community is very different to a network. If you think about those words, network, people tend to say, I use LinkedIn. It's like a utility, very brilliant, very useful. But they said, I belong to Academy. And that's a very different emotion. It's a feeling. And so people, told people about it. Thomas and I did a massive amounts of public speaking, which I suppose was the greatest way for us to spread the word. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. And it wasn't something that I had written down even on the back of a cigarette packet. It just grew across the world in an incredible way. And people will say now, 650,000 members compared to 3 billion on Facebook or whatever. It was different times, but also the culture was different. And that's where, things came undone, because actually there weren't enough people in the world wanting to put the effort in.
Yeah.
Which Academy took effort. It meant, as Brené Brown would say, what matters, but who you are matters more. And it was very much based on who you are.
Yeah. So Penny, talk about building communities. I know that's one of your passions. So share with me, if people are trying to build their own community, and in small ways, it's just about every business is trying to build a community of some kind, whether it's only a few people or a few million, the concept must be similar. What are some of the things that you would advise if other people on building a community?
So we now, just to come sort of reverse myself into that conversation, we now have advised a lot of people on how to build community. It's not a task. I know that sounds weird. It has to come really from the heart. It has to be led by people who aren't looking to be the guru or the thought leader of that community. It's about, the closest thing I can compare it to would be the best pub in town, where the landlord's great, you love him, but you don't go there just hoping the landlord will be there. it's the people in the room. But of course, the landlord had to start it. And so, you know, he opened the doors one day, was the only person standing behind the bar, and he had to be there to welcome and set that culture. And then slowly, the people who liked his culture stayed. People that didn't walked out and went to another place. And then you get like-minded people in the pub. And then he then can come, he eventually will get people in to help him behind the bar. He'll step the other side of the bar. He'll have a laugh and a joke and share knowledge and skills with you as a landlord. And that's how a community truly works. And it's amazing because this is the era of community now. Without doubt, if you read a lot of futurist books, if you talk to people about marketing, the most sustainable way that you can grow a business is to have somewhere where your clients can really feel safe and stay with you. And then obviously there's opportunities like I've just, you know, I've got a community, and some people then ask me to do some deeper mentoring with them. I do believe in paid communities. I think the free is something we're all pretty exhausted by. And this was the issue with the Academy, is we were a paid community. And really our technology didn't disrupt us. It was actually our business model, because we didn't want you, John, to become the product. We wanted to serve you as our client and look after you and care for you. And so a community is definitely feeling. In fact, one of our members very spontaneously said some amazing words, which I've actually put up on YouTube, because he said that he came to BIP 100, which is our latest community, which I'm not trying to plug it, but I'm trying to explain it. And he said he came to a certain extent in his mind for transactional reasons, but he's got something far deeper than that. You know, he's got kindness and love and self-esteem and ideas and that sense of belonging, which he didn't realize. He came for other needs, but he didn't realize that was what he needed. And I think we're in a world now where we're all on dopamine highs, you know, crazy, overstimulated worlds. And if you can step into a loving, beautiful community, which is much more based on oxytocin, it's incredible what that does for your soul. And I think that's what we're looking for now. We need the balance. We need the balance of both. And I think community provides that balance.
Yep. Yeah, and we do have overload. I know I've taken Facebook off my phone, for instance, because it kept driving me mental. So, you know, I needed some space for myself. And talking about recent communities, there's one popping up and down which is fairly topical at the moment, and that's Clubhouse. I've been an Android user. I haven't had the experience just yet, but I know you guys are playing around with that. Well, playing may not be the right word, but how does that fit into the model, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas, he always is a forerunner on anything he hears about. And, you know, actually what was very interesting, I'm going to answer your question about Clubhouse, but just to explain that a bit more, you know, back in 2002, when we had quite a good member base across the world, and Reid Hoffman was one of our members, the founder of LinkedIn. When he launched LinkedIn, Thomas, we used our database and wrote to everybody and said, you know, Reid Hoffman's just launched this brilliant network called LinkedIn, you know, and as clients of ours, small businesses that we love and want to nurture, this is another thing where you need to learn and build your brand inside and connect with other people. And Thomas sent out this invite, and very quickly 30,000 of our members joined, and Reid Hoffman felt very threatened by that, and he actually capped the people being able to join to 30,000, which still exists, which was a shame.
So you're the person responsible for that.
Well, Thomas. So I'm telling that story because it is our job as people. If you think, you know, 1998, we stepped into this world of social networking and then into social media. We have got pretty good understanding of if there is any worth in something. So for our clients, we wanted to evaluate, and the only way you can evaluate is by diving in and swimming around inside something and seeing if there's value in it. So Clubhouse, we got, you know, Thomas particularly got deeply involved in it. It is a really interesting social media, you know, it's an audio social media. It's real time only. When I interview so I use it 2 to 3 days a week, 10 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, an hour. I interview my clients on it. And it gives me a chance to throw smoke up their bottoms and make them realize how much I admire them and help them to connect with people in the room and interview them very deeply on a subject that they're an expert in. But I say to them, turn your Otter on, Otter AI, which can record, because you're going to get some incredible content that's going to come out of this, and then you can repurpose that content, because we have to remember it's only real time. So I'm enjoying it. But we used to get 1,000 people in a room and it was huge. Now we have maybe 50, but I like the small intimate groups. So when there were less people playing, it was distributing the audience between less places.
Yep.
Now you're back down to a very small but concentrated group of people in a room.
Yeah, it was interesting. I've seen the numbers on it where they really exploded, and then all of a sudden, the last couple of months, it's whether people are back to work now with COVID or whatnot, I don't know. But it was an interesting model that doesn't normally do that.
Do you know, John? I think it got a very bad rep around people just using it to pitch. And it's like anything, you just turn off. How many times do you just decide to disconnect from somebody on LinkedIn who's just pitching in all their posts? But if people share knowledge and use it for the good of all, it's very different. And so I think that's back down to establishing a culture, making people keep to that culture. So yeah, and then also we've got Twitter now have launched Spaces. They're all going to be launching their version of an audio social network. So, they were offered a lot of money. I think they've just raised 4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they were offered quite a lot of money. So we'll see.
Yeah. I don't want to keep dwelling in the past, but eAcademy was the time when I first met you guys, and I really wondered in the journey, because I've been building a community myself for the last 30 odd years, brick by brick. So it had its ups and downs and good moments and bad, like anything else. If you had your chance again, knowing what you know now, and hindsight's always a wonderful thing, what would you have increased, decreased, or changed about how you went about eAcademy?
I think, when it first came to a close, 2011, 2012, it was very devastating. It was very easy to self-flagellate and tell you all the things you did wrong and feel like a failure. I even did a talk for Google in London, where they wanted founders who have failed to come and talk about it. And I remember walking down, they did an aisle like a wake, and I followed a pretend vicar with a prayer book, following behind as if, I'm carrying a coffin of this company. It took a long time to shed that feeling of failure and to sort of say, where did we go wrong? And it's not that I'm not taking personal responsibility, because that would be very dangerous if you don't accept some things and learn from it. But it was different times. And this is the biggest challenge, is that any business person, no matter what their beliefs are, if there isn't a market for what you believe in, it's extremely hard. And so what would we change? I mean, to have survived, I would have had to change my values, because I would have had to say, John, I'm going to turn you into a product. We're just going to go free. It's going to be free for all. We're not going to verify who people are, because people paid. So therefore we knew that they were who they said they were. We put a lot of attention to the culture, and therefore keeping people out. And I'm still proud that was the strategy we took. And
it was one of the things I liked about it as well. Unlike Facebook and others, where you get someone dressed up as a clown, or there's no picture at all, and you don't even know whether you're talking to a bot or not.
No, it's that's the trouble. I constantly think, well, I don't anymore, but we were thinking, what could we have changed? There's only one thing. We were offered a price for it by a German network called Zing. Do you remember Zing?
Yep.
But we sat in a room with them at Heathrow. Price was quite good. Personally, could we have been more financially stable now in our lives if we'd taken that? Yes. At the time, we still had great belief in it. Maybe that was a mistake. But they wanted to close it because they found us as a real irritant. So, because we said, if you deduplicate the names of ours with your database, I wonder how many, and they said, we don't imagine there'll be some crossover, but once you're gone, we can then get across Europe better.
Yep.
And that was horrible, because that was like saying, I'm not even just going to adopt my baby to you. You're actually going to have my baby and kill it.
Yep. That's did a lot of people in business get like that though, Penny? That it is
I
their
know.
baby, and when it comes time to let it go, be like my mum. When I left home, she sold my bed, so there was always a clear definition that where it was. But it's hard to do at times, isn't it?
It is. So, I mean, for our own personal wealth, that would have been a better decision. For the business, we carried on another 4 or 5 years. And the legacy, every day somebody will say that their roots of their network and the roots of how they understand how to use the online world stems from their academy days. So that's quite a proud feeling.
And I still hear it in the marketplace today, the old Black Star network, and
Yeah.
people recognising themselves
Yeah. So
and
that was a premium network we created. And again, when we, servers at that time cost a fortune. It's different now how you host things, but the business was expensive. And we had at a peak about 35,000 paying subscribers that were able to be really active, as opposed to the free ones that were more observers. There wasn't enough there to keep it going, and we introduced Black Star, which was fantastic. But it's very interesting. I often think about this within communities now. As soon as you do something like that, it's very powerful, but you create an elitism. And so the power network is what we had. They didn't always feel that they got the attention. They felt that there was a segmented community.
Yep.
But I can't say that was the wrong thing to do, because Black Star in itself kept us going another 3 years, because it was do you know, I'm 57 now, John. If I started it now, if somebody gave me the money and I could properly start it, the lessons learned would be phenomenal from the past. But you don't know what you don't know, do you?
That's it. And hindsight's a wonderful thing.
It makes me a good mentor of others now.
And that's brilliant. So, Penny, you've seen, as one of the pioneers of social networks, you've seen so many changes, and you're obviously up with it today. Where's it all going, particularly with impact on younger people, with online bullying, with I've seen, there's footballers, doing a strike on social media because of harassment and racial abuse. Do you have any thoughts on where it's going, or if you were running, Facebook, how would you try and stem some of the abuse that's going on?
Yeah, it's obviously going to shit, really, to put it bluntly, because we all have to look after our mental fitness and how we feel. And like you say, you've taken it off your phone. We use Facebook groups for where we host our group, the Bit 100 group. But the members, I know, bookmark it and come straight in. They don't do any of the going around it. When I look at, if I do a post on Facebook or on Instagram and it goes through to Facebook, I might get 4 or 5 comments now, where in the past, without a doubt, I'd get 300 or 400 comments. And so they're squeezing. There's a combination of they're squeezing how much my stuff is visible, so they can force you down the advertising route, but at the same time, less people are there as well. And I look at some brilliant, brilliant people that I really look up to, and see how few comments they get. So it's clearly an incredible advertising platform, and they're making huge amounts of money out of that. Again, I've had varying success at that. It's very complicated. So it's very good for the agencies, because it's so complicated to do your Facebook advertising. So I must admit, I would be, and I'm not saying this from any sense of pain from my past, but I would be a little bit concerned, because it's got so much bad press now. So I think it leaves us wide open to think about how else we're going to do things. And certainly we're looking at things like the Disciple platform and all the platforms that enable you to run communities. Now, the challenge is, and this is what is the problem, is if you open a Facebook account, a group on Facebook, most people know how to navigate and get there, and they have their profile and they know how to get there. And it's a town that maybe people don't feel very safe in. It's become a bit like a ghetto.
Yep.
You drive into it and it feels like a ghetto. But if you know exactly how to park outside and jump into a club, you probably feel safe if you know that safe place. If you start a community outside of that town and you say, right, you're not going to that town, you're coming to another town, you've got to get people to relearn the roads and understand how to navigate to it. And I just don't know how quickly we're all going to be willing to do that. certainly for us, we're certainly hosting it on Facebook groups, and we'll keep it there. But we do have some members saying, I don't want to join if it's on Facebook.
Yep. Yep.
So, but then LinkedIn doesn't excite me as for the utilities that they have around the Facebook, around their groups. So, and I do believe the future is small, intimate groups. I don't, of 100 people, literally. It's something that our members are absolutely loving, and we're teaching them to replicate that business model.
Yep. So Penny, just share that, while we're on that subject, just share what you're doing with the 100 Club, as it were.
Yeah, okay, so now this isn't me pitching, and I really want people to know that, but it's more that it's very, very fascinating because it's around human behavior, and I did allude to earlier. As a community owner, I want, and this is my personality, I want to feel that I'm serving each member very closely. And this was part of the pain for me when we got to 650,000 members, because they all knew who I was, but I felt very bad that I didn't know who they were in detail. So 100 people, Thomas and I feel we can really get to know them. We can get to know who their best connections are, their expertise. We can highlight them on LinkedIn. We can elevate them. We can love them. We can care for them. So that's what we're looking for. The sort of strap line is celebrating experts, but the byline is diversity of expertise, commonality of kindness. It's the commonality of kindness that's bringing people in, because the power of our emotional strength in business cannot be underestimated. So BIP 100 stands for Business is Personal. My book behind me here is a book that I call Business is Personal. So the saying, it's not personal, it's just business. Well, I think that's crap. I think business is very personal. I always have believed it. So I'm sort of turned that phrase around and said business is personal. Quite nice, because I hear people now saying business is personal, isn't it? So we treat it very personally, and we have events going on every day online. We're going to have a monthly dinner. Possibly people are starting to approach us to say, could they run a BIP 100 in another country? And it's a model. But it's very much around the culture and finding the people that know how to lead a kind culture. And once you say, we've brought you in, and only between 4 and 6 people join a month, so we'll probably get to full capacity within a year, and there'll be a little bit of churn, and we'll have a waiting list. When you say you're allowed in, because we really believe you're a fantastic expert and you've got the right expertise for this day and age, but more so, we love who you are and the fact that you're kind and open, and you will be a community member. As soon as you bring somebody in, it's a bit like neuralistic programming. When you make people feel that way, everybody rises together, and that's the power of the community. So that's what we're doing.
Yep. And I know pre-COVID you were doing also lunches and dinners and whatnot. So how are you going to cope with that? Well, you must have done it all online since COVID, but what's the strategy as soon as the restrictions are fully lifted?
Well, we've got our masterminds going back tomorrow on Friday. So we're back meeting in the UK on Friday. And then, so we've got 2 masterminds going at the moment. We'll launch our next mastermind as soon as everybody feels confident about it. And then we're going to be doing monthly dinners. And we're just hoping that Boris in the UK is not going to change what's happening.
Yep. Yeah.
But I do think there's this hybrid need. I ran actually on Clubhouse yesterday a talk around events with an event specialist, and it definitely, from the conversation, that we now need a hybrid version. They were talking, we actually talked with a guy in Ohio, John Keel, and some other people in around the UK about the fact that the productivity that we get now from this experience is immense, but we still. And so the online is fantastic. We've all learnt it. We've all crossed that chasm, very comfortable, can be quite vulnerable and intimate now through the screen. It's lovely, but we do want to still be hugging. And so we think that there's going to be this hybrid now form of networking, form of events, which is going to be really good. I think it's going to be great.
Yep. Penny, personal brand has always been important to you. Can you just share why that is?
Yeah, I mean, it was not something I put a label on, but Penny Power and Thomas Power got well known as founders of Academy, and we got hired outside of Academy to do talks. And it was Penny Power, founder of Academy, Thomas Power, founder of Academy, or whatever. When Academy came to an end, it was a life raft that Thomas and I had our own personal brand. that we hadn't created a Twitter account with just our company logo or any of it, you know, that our content, so we were known. And what we also discovered is that we had social capital behind our brand. We had people believing in us, people understanding us, and so it was our safety raft. And so I do think that well, it's back to what I said earlier, what you know matters, but who you are matters more. And I think our personal brand is absolutely critical, but a lot of people are very confused by that, because you've got some who think, yay, I'm going to get famous and rich because look who I am. And then you've got others that are saying, I haven't got that sort of ego. I don't want to be out there shouting about myself. But personal brand, which is actually the area our daughter has specialized into, is more about you. It's more about the people I want to serve. So I don't tend to talk about myself unless I'm sharing a vulnerability that might help somebody to understand how they come through something. So personal brand to me is, what impact do you want to have on the world, and how are you helping people to achieve things and get from where they are now to somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a growing trend too, I think, when I'm talking to people like yourself around the world.
Well, our daughter started, she was a coach in personal branding, but during lockdown, she had so much demand, she started an agency. She's got 11 staff now, and she's got an incredible business growing all the time. And that's lockdown, because everybody has realized that if I don't have a brand that says something online, because if we relied, a lot of people did rely on being a public speaker to get their clients, or to run networking events or go to networking events, and so they didn't really have to have it.
Yep.
Now it's critical.
Yep. Wise words, Penny, and it would pay people to stop and for a moment and consider them. Penny, you were awarded the MBE in 2014 for contribution to entrepreneurship in the social digital economy. That's a bit of a mouthful. Can you just share how all that came about?
Yeah, so I don't know, some people around the world won't know what that is. It was actually the OBE. So the reason I correct you is Thomas used to say you're an online business executive.
Aha.
So, but the OBE is awarded by the Queen, and you're usually nominated by someone. So I was nominated by the business minister. You don't tend to know this is happening, had no idea. And in terms of our own timeline, so Academy came to an end properly in 2012 for us. And then in November of 13, I got this letter through saying that I'd been nominated, and would I be willing to accept this? And they have to ask you, because some people are anti-monarchy, and so some people do turn it down. It was a great privilege. So the citation was for contribution to to entrepreneurship in the digital economy. And yeah, it was beautiful. But I felt Thomas should have really got it. I mean, it was my idea, you know, for a split second I said something, but Thomas and then Glenn, as you know, and Julian, it was a real team effort. So, and also the members. So I suppose I just collected it on behalf of all of us.
Like any stone that gathers momentum, any snowball, it has to begin with some momentum. And if someone didn't begin the momentum in the first place, everybody else that contributed to the thing, even though they may have even made a bigger contribution, without the person who started it in the first place, nothing would have ever happened.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's very nice for you to say. But I can't imagine if it had just been me going forward, where it would have got to.
Well, great people surround themselves with even better people. So that's another subject. So Penny, computerisation has been targeted to contributing to people's mental health, you know, and all the business that's going around of adding COVID to that mix. Has been a bit of a toxic cocktail. What strategies or action would you take to help anyone struck by these issues?
God, they're huge. So it actually was in November the 30th, 2017, I actually had something called a hallucinogenic panic attack. I had no idea that I was suffering such high levels of stress, and a hallucinogenic panic attack is really something, a very extreme form of panic attack, and it's your cortisol levels are so high that the brain chemistry gets impacted. And it manifested itself in a room when I was delivering a speech to 40 people, or a workshop actually, over 4 hours, by the people in the room's faces morphing into the trolls from our past. So we had people that we banned who had become very nasty people to Thomas and I. They had left my life 5 years before, but the day before, a troll had come back into my life, having really not thought about them. And it obviously disturbed something and put me back into stress. And what had led up to that was, apart from massive financial adversity and a lot of pain after Academy, to rebuild and replenish our money after we'd lost so much. We'd also had a lot of deaths and traumas in our family that we had coped with. And somebody told me recently there's something called compassion depression. I didn't know I even had that, but I sort of resonated with it. But I was putting a lot of oxygen on a lot of people, not really taking care of myself. So I thought I was mentally healthy, and I was. And I looked at the mental health agenda at the time and thought, I don't really identify with that, you know. I didn't have any panic attacks that you would know of. I didn't feel I had depression, but it was obviously very masked. And what I discovered on that moment was that I wasn't mentally fit enough. Mental fitness is very different to mental health. And when you think about mental fitness, you think about your day-to-day practice of fitness, like you would about your physical fitness. What's your day-to-day practice to eat well and exercise well? So it was an amazing journey I went on, which started with me going to see a psychologist. And then that's when I started to write my books. I thought there's so many aspects to my character that I can work on, which isn't kind to myself and isn't helping me around boundaries, assertiveness. There was just a raft of things that I write about, which I knew a lot of business owners would resonate with, particularly business owners like me, which I called myself an accidental entrepreneur. I came from a place of wanting to have impact and care for people. I ended up creating something much bigger than I could really cope with. So, and there are a lot of people like that. So interestingly, I talked about Hannah has gone into building personal brand. Our son, TJ Power, has, he went through A levels and university and into a master's, and he's focused on mental fitness and mental well-being. And so it's wonderful because we bring both Hannah and TJ into our community to help our members every week. So what can you do? I mean, TJ says, and it's pretty obvious, if you think, why is mental health issues rising at the same level that technology is? It can't be coincidence.
Yep.
So therefore, he has 8 areas, 8 pillars to his mental well-being, which is all about gut health and self-validation and rest and a relationship with nature. But a lot of it is our relationship with technology and how we do it. And I've struggled quite a lot recently with my sleep, and our mental fitness is always going to be challenged. And TJ said to me, got hold of my phone, he said, "Mum, you are flooded with stimulation and dopamine, and you are not giving yourself the gap between then and bedtime for the dopamine to calm down and the serotonin to come up and allow the melatonin to come in to allow you to sleep." And so, that was a great lesson for me. So now I don't touch my phone after 7 o'clock in the evening. And it literally, he's actually gone into my phone and turned all the apps off and put limits on them. And it's making a huge difference. So that's just an example. We can also look at how we're using alcohol to support ourselves through stress. There's loads of areas of it. But I suppose my big message is that we have to manage our mental fitness every day, every single day. Go out into nature, relax. Maybe meditation doesn't suit you. It doesn't suit everyone. And it's certainly, if you've got an overactive mind, it's very hard to calm it. But you do have to find ways to make sure that you are resting and replenishing and respecting yourself.
Yep. Wow. That's nearly a session in itself.
It is.
I'm sure we could come back and visit that. Penny, I know family and work and balance is important in your life. I actually wrote an article recently on that if you were looking for a work-life balance, then you are running a hobby, not a business. And I got absolutely caned on social media for it, maybe because of my attitude. But how do you deal with that balancing act between family and operating a business?
So I remember the point that I picked up my daughter, who's 29 soon, and she was about 5.5. I was extremely busy. I had two younger children. I picked her up from school, and the kids came running out with their little books. That was called a Biff and Chip book, and with their teacher, and they come running towards you. Their beautiful little face, Hannah had loads of curly hair, running towards me with her book. My phone went at the same time, and it was a client, and it was an important call for him. And I answered it, and Hannah's running towards me, and I said, "I can't speak now, John. I'm at Waterloo Station. I'm really busy, and I'll get back to you." I put the phone down, and I cuddled my daughter, put them all back in the car. I was driving past, and I can remember exactly the same place, and I thought, I absolutely hate myself. Why, first of all, did I just lie? Because I don't lie, ever. And what was I masking? And it was at that point I thought, I am a mother, and I'm a mother first and foremost. And if I can't design a life around the fact that the people who interact with me know how important that value is in my life, then I am building a horrible life for myself. And so I actually rang that client back and said, "Look, I have to tell you, I wasn't at Waterloo, but I was sort of shocked and embarrassed, and I didn't know how to handle the noise that was in the background." And it was the moment that I vowed to really understand how to integrate my life. And from that point, I integrated our family life with our children's life, to the point where, with our business life with our children, to the point where when I used to go out to do speeches in the evenings, I would explain to my kids that because you are allowing mummy to go out and do something, and this is what I'm going to do, you are helping 400 people tonight that I'm going to talk to. And they understood it. Then they traveled around the world with us, and they always understood it. Now, there's good and bad. I've created some psychological challenges for our children because they really grew up understanding the amazing ups and downs of business and entrepreneurship. And it shocked me that the three of them wanted to be an entrepreneur as well, having gone through that. But it's always been one thing to me. My family is part of my business, and my business is part of my family, and it extends into how I treat my clients. They become family, and I really do care deeply about them. And that's why we've gone for small intimate groups, because when I was trying to care for 650,000 people like that, it broke me.
Yep. It sounds like a great model for stickiness, as the Americans would say.
Yeah, and our clients really love the fact that we call it a family, and they are getting to know our family.
Yep.
It's I'm very proud of that. Really am proud of it.
So Penny, what's next on the agenda for Penny and Thomas and the rest of the crew?
Well, I actually think more of the same, really. I think Thomas and I didn't do community for 5 years, from 2000, well, more than that, actually, 2012 until the online community till last year. It was thanks to COVID, 8 years. We used to help other people with theirs and things, but it's an amazing feeling to be back where you belong. And I said to our members this morning when they came on Zoom, they think I am serving them, but they have no idea how much they're serving me in terms of giving us back this feeling that we lost. And it's very beautiful. And this time we're not going to let it get out of control. So it's more of this, really.
Okay. All right. So, and a bit of writing perhaps with the BIP Club and other books. Are there any other books on the horizon?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize, because I did Know Me, Like Me, Follow Me back in 2009, which was a social media book about how to build your followers from being known and liked. I didn't know I was going to do BIP 100 until I'm sitting in front of psychiatrists. So I don't know. We'll have to see. There is something around community. I think the time is now. And I think this is a beautiful time in history when we can all really get back to human values, things that we need. Lockdowns taught us all a lot. And I think if I can help other people to build beautiful communities around them, A, it's a great business model, and B, it's a real win-win for client as well. So,
Penny Power, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you on the show. The time has just whizzed by, and we could spend another hour on this. So I'm sure people will get some great benefit from it, and we'll put your contact details there for anybody that wants to explore some of your your lovely thoughts and vision. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you very much for allowing us to come into your home for a brief period.
Oh, it's been beautiful. I tell you something that an Academy member told me, John. He's called Ronald Paris, and he was in Holland. And in 2003, he said to Thomas and I, attention is a product. And that is going to be something that we're all going to be trying to get. And it is. And it's such a gift when somebody like you gives me the chance to have the attention of whoever's listening to this. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Penny Power, thank you.
Thank you.